And who does not know Congressman Golez? Graduate of the Annapolis Naval Academy. U.S. Naval. I think a classmate of or a colleague of John McCain. And he has a lot of achievements which is hard to equal. And this issue will make or unmake Congressman Golez in the national scene. That's why it's very important for him to defend his position very well, because his future will be judged by this legislation. So without much ado, you have 15 minutes to defend your future, Congressman Golez.
Thank you very much, future Justice Amading Valdez. Well, with respect to my political future, I've always been against RH for many years. Very vocal against RH. In the last election, I won with 96% of the votes of Parañaque. So I guess that establishes what kind of a future I have with respect to my stand on RH. By the way, when I was invited here, I was expecting to be debating with the principal author himself, Edsel Lagman. But I'm not really disappointed. Congressman Lagman has decided to run away like Mosley. Not ready to rumble. And he would rather debate with Congressman Manny Pacquiao, Congressman Roilo Golez. But of course, we have a better congressman present here. Much better than Congressman Lagman, in the person of Congressman Joey Zubiri. Well, I'd like to start by showing this picture of children. The RH people are very much against pictures like this, seeing a lot of children. And in fact, in the opening of the debate at the committee level of the RH bill, one anti-population personality, former Senator Ting Paterno, said, and if you have too many children that you can't afford to send to school, you are consigning those children to poverty, and you are promoting an intergenerational poverty, ang sali ng kahirapan mula sa magulang hanggang sa mga anak at sa mga apo. Talking of intergenerational, as though poverty is hereditary, as though poverty is a communicable disease. I'd like to show this picture of a poor public school somewhere in Project 3, Quezon City, a low-cost government housing project, many years ago. Many of them came from poor families, many of them from big families of 5, 6, 7, and more children. Today, after about 40, 50 years, most of them are very accomplished. Many of them are professionals, doctors, lawyers. Some are now abroad, businessmen, very successful. And in fact, one of them is now the congressman of the 2nd District of Parañaque. I also would like to emphasize that one of the biggest component of the GDP right now is accounted for by the 8.7 million overseas Filipinos worldwide, OFWs. Many of them come from poor families. They're not from Forbes Park, they're not from Bel Air, they're not from BF Homes, from poor families all over the country. Families that have a lot of children also. And now, they're the ones supporting the Philippine economy, accounting for $21 billion contribution every year, 12% of our GDP, the largest single component of our GDP. And of course, that is what you call the Philippine diaspora, similar to the Chinese diaspora, the Indian diaspora, the Irish diaspora, the Italian diaspora, the Greek diaspora, the Jewish diaspora, all successful diasporas that contributed so much to the economic growth of their own respective mother countries. And of course, it's not only the OFWs, but the BPO right now is, again, a very strong component of our economy. And I understand from NEDA that this could go as high as about 1 million workers, accounting for as much as $10 to $11 billion a year, growing at about 20-25% per annum. And again, most of these BPO workers come from families that are basically poor, come from big families, but they are now supporting and pushing the economic growth of our country. In fact, it is projected, right now India is supposed to be the leader as far as the BPO is concerned, but right now the Philippines is slowly inching towards India. And it is even projected that the Philippines, right now, the Philippines has bested India as far as call centers are concerned. Again, a very major contributor to the Philippine economy. I was talking with NEDA Secretary Cayetano Paderanga Jr. and talking about the Philippine population. In 1992, at the end of his first term as NEDA Secretary, there were only 65 million Filipinos, and the poverty level at that time was 32%. After 19 years, now we have 95 million Filipinos, the poverty level is 26%, and the population increased by 30 million. Of course, a lot of people would say the 30 million people increase because of the poor people, and they keep on blaming the poor people for the so-called spike in the population of the country. But look at the figures. 32% in 1992 accounted for 20.8 million Filipinos below the poverty line. In 2011, that's 24.7 million Filipinos below the poverty line, or an additional 4.1 million Filipinos that are supposed to be poor out of the 30 million Filipino increase in the population. So you can see that the poor accounted for only 4 million out of the 30 million Filipino population increase. So why blame the poor for the population increase when the bulk of it came from those who are not poor? In other words, if we are going to have an RH program, it should not be addressing the poor, but the entire gamut of the Philippine population, not only the poor. So why blame the poor? Now, let's talk of House Bill number 4244. You know, the reason why I am personally against House Bill number 4244, or the RH bill, has nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with the